What's up, guys? Jamie here, and this will be episode 5 of No Turning Back 2.0. And before I introduce everyone else in the call, don't forget to send in your videos of yourself, edits, or other pictures or signs of celebrating 25 years of the dead man. The email is undertakervid25years at yahoo.com. I'll put the link to that video in the description as well as the email and everyone else's social media. But I'm here with my co-host. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, what's up, everybody? Razman's Reality in the house. Wow, episode 5 already. Time flies. Huh?
And we're here with a guest host. Would you
Yeah.
like to introduce yourself?
Sure, might as well. What's going on? It's for the project. It's been a while.
Yeah,
First
we're
time
all
actually being a part of the show.
Yeah,
In a long time,
Davey,
actually.
yeah, Davey used to be part of me and Jamie's Skype calls all the time, and so this is like a little mini reunion for all of us to have him here. So it's
yeah,
kind of
and David remembers when I used to do the show way back in the day. That was like
Yeah.
2010. A
Before
long, long time
Google
ago.
Hangouts. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
way before Google Hangouts.
we talked about that when we re-debuted it. I mean, it's so much easier to do podcast type shows like you do your in the hot seat show too. It's so much easier to do that stuff now because you don't have to put Skype on and crank up your speakers and all that mess and try to sync everybody up and make everybody heard like you can see everybody's face. Google Plus is probably the only good thing about Google taking over YouTube. They ruined everything else, but they did good with this. So
Yeah, pretty
Basically.
much. So, before I start what we're going to talk about, all our social media links are down below, and you should really join in with celebrating 25 years. You should watch that video and send in your stuff.
yes.
But anyway, we're going to talk about. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm gonna let Jamie and David carry here for a sec because I gotta get the link to let people know that we're actually here. So I'm gonna
Okay,
let them.
but yes, all our social media links are down below, so follow us, like us, and subscribe to us if you haven't already. But, David, would you like to add anything else before we start?
Other than that, let's get the show going. I'm ready.
Okay, so first of all, we're going to talk about Raw. And what did everybody think of Raw this past Monday? Anyone
Well,
want to say anything?
we don't want to get too far into it because of that's gonna be toward the end of the show, like the big thing to send the show off.
Right, just like the recap of it, not too much, but.
Right. But what I was gonna say before we knew what was going to happen this week, I thought the main event was really interesting. What they did with the whole Rollins and Roman Reigns feud. I thought it was a good way to make Roman look strong without making Seth look too weak. That's really the only big takeaway from Raw. Raw was kind of just average this week. There isn't anything really that jumps out in my memory other than Paige making an awesome, heel promo and taking out Becky and Charlotte, which we'd all been waiting for, of course. But I mean, that's really all I remember. I mean, and that's kind of sad when Raw is like 3 hours long. That there's only like two things that jump out of your brain.
I think this week was definitely better than last week. I mean, this week was still average, but David, what would you like to say?
Yeah, for me, I mean, for Raw, it has been hit or miss. It depends on what's happening to you at times. But this week's, I thought it was a good show this week, just to go brief with it. But it depends on what's happening to you. That's how it's been for me lately.
That is a good point. It does depend on what's going on and what storylines are going on. But I really liked what about Seth and Roman, and I like Paige a lot. Did they show anything about Bray Wyatt? They did, yeah, right?
They did,
Right,
yeah.
I like that segment, and I was
That was
hoping,
awesome.
I was hoping that we would get to know more and like who else could possibly be the Undertaker and Kane's two other partners, but we didn't really find anything else
Yeah,
out.
that was a good promo by the Wyatts. We did forget to mention that. That was anytime the Wyatts talk, it's always entertaining.
Yes,
Well,
he's great on the mic.
Particularly Bray Wyatt, but yeah.
Yeah. But like I said, we didn't really find out too much, so hopefully maybe we'll find out this Monday, or if they're even doing another two people at all. But we're gonna save that towards the end because that ties in with what we're gonna talk about at the
What
end.
happened? Yeah,
Right.
what happened this week? So NXT was really really interesting because they did so much hype for Apollo Crews and Finn Balor, and it was a great match, and then they just throw it out the window basically by having Baron Corbin and Samoa Joe get involved. Samoa Joe was a bit of a surprise, but then kind of not a surprise. So my question to you guys, and I'm still getting the link by the way, it took forever to pull up on my computer for some reason,
So,
but I'm going to get it here in a second. But my question to you guys while I finish that up is, do you think Samoa Joe did a full-on heel turn, or was that just all about the NXT Championship itself?
David, you can talk if you want because I feel like you haven't
yeah.
gotten a chance.
Yeah. That's right. But for Samoa Joe, I feel like that is a full-blown heel turn at the moment. So I feel like now that we have that, I feel like we're gonna get a feud going for Samoa Joe and Finn Balor, which would be interesting. And I almost feel like too for Apollo Crews, he'll get his rematch too coming, but now he's gonna be facing, I'm sure, Corbin. Um, so that'll probably be in the works too. So a lot of two of those matches will probably happen at the next takeover, I'm sure. So that'll be something to look out for.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what I was going to say is that,
I feel like that is
oh, sorry.
at the moment.
The thing was not muted. Hold on one second.
I got really confused. I was like, why did I hear David again?
I know.
Sorry.
Okay, we're live. It's not a
We're,
big deal.
yeah, no, uh, it should have been muted, but it didn't mute itself. But anyway, what I was saying was, it looks like there's going to be a fatal four-way. Uh,
That's good.
To me, that's what they're setting up for the NXT Championship is a fatal four-way between Corbin, Joe, Cruz, and Baylor, which I think will be a really strong match for Takeover England.
Like I could see a little bit of both with Samoa Joe though, like being a heel turn, but also wanting to go after the championship. And like you said, obviously a fatal four-way, like that could just add to the match anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, yeah, it can be a really strong match between those four. What's your opinion, David, on Baron Corbin? Because I don't know if I like him or dislike him. Like I don't like his gimmick, the whole I don't need to pay my dues. I was dominant in other sports, but that's just him doing his job as a heel. Like you're
Right.
supposed to dislike heels. That's their job. So I haven't really decided if I'm a fan of Baron Corbin or if he's just like another typical WWE machine big guy.
Right. For me right now, I'm mainly in the middle between with him right now. But I do like him more better as a heel. I feel like he does a lot more better on top of that. So this is actually stay like that.
Yeah. Okay. Link is in the chat. But yeah, I hope they keep him like that too. I don't know how well it's going to translate on the main roster with him because every time they brought in a big 7 foot guy that's not named Undertaker or Kane, it just kind of has fallen flat
Doesn't work.
every time. So it's
Right.
I don't know, Jamie. What do you think about him?
Maybe it'll necessarily work on NXT, but not when you officially go onto the main roster. It all kind of depends how the
Yeah.
fans react to things too.
Something.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy too.
Yeah, something interesting that they were teasing at the cheap pay-per-views ago when Chris Jericho was the mystery partner of Ambrose and Reigns was Baron Corbin being that guy. That could have been interesting, like a Shield 2.0 with Baron Corbin in there. That could have been a unique way to bring him up. So I wonder if they dropped the ball on that. Like at the time, I wasn't a fan of it, and especially in hindsight, you guys know how I feel about Jericho, so I wouldn't have taken away a moment to see Jericho in the ring. Like, don't get me wrong, but I almost wish both could happen now because I look at Baron Corbin and I'm like, how does he come up in a way that matters? Because Tyler Breeze is lucky as heck to get stuck in there with Dolph Ziggler immediately. Like that
Yeah,
doesn't
that's just
happen to
awesome.
guys. Yeah, it's awesome by itself. And then you had Kevin Owens, who automatically had John Cena. It's almost like with all of these guys being so good before they're even in NXT in the first place, there's so much pressure. If you don't give them a strong foundation on the main roster right from the beginning, they're going to get lost.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already kind of happening to Sasha Banks, which is really disheartening to say, but it's the truth. She's kind of just fallen down because the focus is on Paige and Charlotte right now.
Right, and before, when she officially came to the roster, she kind of overshadowed everyone else in Team Bad. Like, no one cared about the other two, just her.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a hard thing to book that we read now. I mean, I guess that's the only bad thing about NXT being so strong is there's so much expectation for all of these next generation of the WWE. When they come up, if they don't do them right, they can really screw it up in a bad way.
Yeah, and that's how it is too now. Like certain things only work just for NXT, like guys like for the Ascension and Adam Rose, and then you see other people go on to other shows like that, and depending on how it is, might be either do good for them or it might do bad to them. So it all depends on like how they actually bring them up and what they have going for them too.
Yeah, yeah. But
I know
Good
it's
point.
David, do you agree though with what we've been saying the last couple of weeks about how the book just seems to be stronger with Triple H? Like Vince needs
oh yeah, no doubt.
to pull back the reins even more than what he has because
Exactly.
Triple H is the one that's in tune with the product that fans want to see, not Vince.
Sure. What would you like to add, David?
Yeah, what I was gonna say, like, especially going into that, I feel like whoever else is running NXT and who's writing the shows should be a part of the Raw and SmackDown shows. That'd be really awesome to see what kind of storylines and stuff that they could come up with. I like
Right.
Yeah,
that.
that's a good point. And you can visibly see the difference between NXT and like Raw and SmackDown. It's almost like sometimes you can't believe that they're the same company.
Oh, absolutely not. And you know, it's like um, it it's almost a situation where sorry, I was just trying to gather my words there for a second. But it's almost a situation where even though NXT is only an hour, NXT you're guaranteed to have your attention the entire show. Whereas when you watch Raw and SmackDown, like we just talked about with Raw, it's like it's hard to remember from week to week.
Your attention goes out the window sometimes,
Yeah,
depending on
Exactly.
what's on the show.
yeah, yeah.
So
So,
I think what we mainly wanted to talk about was Seth's
well,
injury, unless you wanted to
well,
add anything
well, I
else.
was just gonna say I gotta be straight with the audience. I just my Bengals got moved to Thursday. We're on Thursday Night Football this week, so I just did not see SmackDown. So it's gonna be up to one of these two guys to talk about SmackDown if there was anything relevant to happen, because I didn't get a chance to see it.
I also didn't watch SmackDown. I don't know if you did, David, if you want to add anything to that before we talk about Seth's injury.
Well, I probably will later on. I'll have to look up everything else up.
Oh,
But I
so
did
none of
watch
us watched it. Good. So
Oh wow.
that probably means nothing happened. And I didn't hear anything
Yeah.
anyway, so I assume that means nothing big. Probably just a repeat of what we saw on
Right,
Raw.
right.
Um,
Okay. Well, yeah. So, Jamie, you are the main host, or unless you want me to talk about it, fill the people in on what happened this week if they don't know.
so everybody, I think, kind of knows. Well, they're on tour right now in the UK, and at one of the shows that Seth Rollins was at, I think it was Ireland, and it was on Wednesday. So it was literally the day after the SmackDown taping. Seth Rollins hurt himself. I think he tore his ALS, AL something
It
ALC,
was MCL,
MCL. He tore that
something like
too,
that.
and meniscus. So he hurt himself really bad. So he'll be out for 6 to 8 months. So that cuts WrestleMania right then and there because you can't just return at WrestleMania and then just be in a random match. You need a build, but that goes into like they have to change so many storylines now. And that also runs into what I was saying with Raz before we came on here. It's that sort of cuts into Undertaker's match too, because like who are going to be the other two in the match? Everyone else is in a storyline right now, or they're injured, or if they're in another match, it's because other wrestlers are injured. So obviously Roman was supposed to feud with Seth, but now he can't, so it's a tournament match. And like who else can go after the title picture? Maybe Brock Lesnar or. But would you like to add? Anybody would like to add anything?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is it just throws what we thought we were getting at Survivor Series in a complete loop. To have the WWE World Heavyweight Champion out of commission and to crown a new championship at Survivor Series. I mean, Survivor Series was going to be huge as it was with the celebration of 25 years of Taker. But now to throw this in there, it's just like, wow. I personally, right now, despite how they might have to book it to make it interesting, I don't see any way, because I almost didn't see any way before, that Roman Reigns does not walk out of Survivor Series as WWE World Heavyweight Champion. He's just the only guy right now that makes any sense to me to hold that title. And matter of fact, I'll even take it one step further, because we talked about it on the show before, Jamie and I, that Sheamus gets no reaction from the crowd at all. He doesn't deserve that Money in the Bank briefcase, and the crowd doesn't care about him. So I would not be surprised to see him be the second guy ever, along with Damian Sandow, because I don't really count John Cena, because that was a match where he told that he was going to cash in, and then Big Show got involved, and that was like a whole big mess. So I don't really count that as a Money in the Bank win or losing. That was just
Well, that's the only thing that wouldn't hurt. Like
Yeah.
that's the only wrestler that wouldn't like
Yeah.
hurt their career.
Right.
Anybody else, that would have destroyed them.
Right, but but what I'm saying is I would not be surprised to see Sheamus try to cash in and lose, just to get that whole Money in the Bank thing out of the way, because unless they can completely revamp Sheamus somehow, I don't see how they're ever going to get him over. So my whole feeling right now is that Roman Reigns will be the new WWE World Heavyweight Champion. He'll probably hold it all the way until Mania.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, they'll probably do that, but I kind of feel like Sheamus will end up cashing in and winning it overall and then have a feud with Roman Reigns. And then the tournament too, I'm sure they'll probably maybe have like an 8-man tournament. I don't know how they're gonna do it that way. Either have it like on Raw and then have the rest on pay-per-view. So there's a lot can go into that as well, and then probably have like some of the young guys go into it, like Cesaro, Kevin Owens, and guys like that, and go head to head and try and face Roman Reigns. So there's a lot that are going interested, so I'm interested to see what's going to Raw, if we're going to get any more information out of this upcoming week too.
Yeah, that's true, because, they haven't been able to publicly acknowledge the injury. The official announcement hasn't been made on TV, so,
It's been, if you're following, sorry to interrupt you, if you're, have the WWE app or Twitter or anything, it pops up in like, not a text message, but like almost an announcement on your phone. And that's where I got at least the news that he was hurt. And it's all over social media anyway.
Right.
But it also, like, so many storylines now have to be changed. And so many other wrestlers that were supposed to feud have to go and feud with them, a different wrestler, because they have nobody to feud with. So it changes so many things in the storyline. Like, obviously, it was supposed to be Seth versus Roman, but now it can't be that. And it kind of ties into, like, is it just going to be Undertaker and Kane versus the 4 other Wyatt family members, or is there going to be 2 other people? Because there's no one else left on the roster, because they're either feuding with somebody because other people are hurt, or everyone else is hurt. and there's nobody unless they clear other wrestlers, and there's really nobody else, or they bring up NXT stars. Like me and Raz were talking about that before on
Yeah, yeah,
before
I wouldn't
here.
be surprised to see like maybe Baron Corbin, maybe even Samoa Joe and Finn Balor, even because it's not unprecedented to have the NXT champion while he's NXT champion on the main roster. I mean, we saw Kevin Owens do it, so I wouldn't be surprised to see like those three guys maybe come up and fill a spot in the tournament because
Because we
they
thought like. Because for Undertaker's match, we thought maybe Dean or Orton would be in that match because, like, it kind of the only thing would make sense. Because anybody else, like Sting or Daniel Bryan, kind of far fetched. But Randy's hurt, and Dean and everybody else are already in their own storylines. So, but sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, have those guys come up and fill the tournament spot. It's because unless they're gonna have guys pull double duty, or unless we're gonna get a situation where we get what we really want, like the ultimate dream match, which would be Undertaker, Kane, Sting, and Daniel Bryan, a
Just
clear
about to say
Daniel
that.
Bryan, as the 25 years of Taker Classic Survivor Series that match. There's really nothing else they can do. They're gonna have to compensate for the loss of Seth Rollins somehow because it throws all the other storylines into chaos.
Right, and
Yep.
I think 6 other people are injured right now, and 2 of your biggest stars are out, like Cena and Orton, or third, Sting. But I would love to see Sting, Daniel Bryan, Kane, and Undertaker wrestle together in the match. Like, if we can't get a Sting versus Undertaker, at least we would have those, 2 in the same ring together.
At least
But
they'll be teaming up. That'd be really cool to see.
yeah, that would be amazing. And I was saying if we can't have that, it would have only made sense for Orton and Dean because they've been attacked by the Wyatt family. But Orton's hurt, and Dean's in his own storyline. And if you want to say something, because we haven't given you a chance to talk, go ahead, David.
Yeah, but there's a lot that's gonna really go down, and it's gonna make it for something worth looking into. But yeah, like the main match that would be cool to see, like especially for when the whole entire tournament ends. Even though it was happening basically on the last SmackDown last week, which is cool. We did get to see Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns. Maybe we'll have that going into the mix. I wouldn't mind seeing that and having it as a feud or something. That'd be
That'd
something
be great. I
interesting.
would love to see that. I don't know
Yeah,
if they let him do it while he's still Intercontinental Champion.
yeah,
But
that's the thing.
it would bring back the old school feel of the Intercontinental
Mhm.
Champion was always the uncrowned next guy.
Right.
Go ahead, David.
That's the way it used to be in the 80s and 90s. So,
Yeah.
Go
But
ahead,
we'll
David.
see. And it'll be worth it.
Sorry to cut you off, but did you want to say anything else?
That's fine.
Okay.
Other than that, that's it.
Anyone want to add anything else or ask any questions?
No, I was just going off of what he said.
Right.
I agree that I would love to see a Reigns versus Owens feud, but like I said, it'd be interesting because he has the IC title, what to do there. But the big question mark, but David's right in saying, until we know how they're going to set it up or what they're going to do, we can't really say a whole lot. But, it's just.
I guess we'll find out on Monday a little bit more of
Hopefully.
what happens.
Yeah, it's just
more information.
It's just so wide open about what they're going to do. But
because they're so tight on stars right now. Because pretty much either everyone's gone or hurt.
We'll probably even have returning stars or other superstars ready to debut or something.
Yeah,
that's a good
well,
point.
David, do you see guys getting called up from NXT because of this tournament now? Is that what you can see happening, or maybe
a few of them, not all of them. The Samoa Joe thing that you brought up before, that's actually not that bad of an idea. Even though he's in the whole thing now with the NXT title, so that's a little iffy too. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Well, I don't know because it's either gonna have to happen in the tournament or they're gonna have to bring somebody up to be part of the Undertaker and Kane match because I just don't see how it could be 2-on-4.
I don't really. Like as great as it would be to see them tag again, I don't want to see 2-on-4. But if they're like scrounging for stars because there's nobody on the roster right now, which is kind of their fault. So you can't rely on Undertaker or Brock Lesnar or whoever all the time because they're not going to be here forever. But if you do keep bringing up stars and help elevate them and bring up NXT stars, like that will be fine too. That only benefit everybody anyway.
Right.
But another match though that people want to see, which is Kane, Undertaker, Finn, and Sting. They want to see that too.
I would love to see Finn in that spot. I mean, if you can't,
That would help him.
Yeah, if you can't put Daniel in that spot, Finn being in that spot would be amazing.
Right. That would be amazing. It would help him, and a lot of people want to see that. And also, though, like I was saying before, I think I said in the last No Turning Back, it would make sense for Daniel Bryan, Kane, and Undertaker to be there together because they've been for Team Hell No against the Shield. But hopefully we get more people in the match. I mean, because they're kind of like scrounging for people. But would you like to say anything, David?
No, yeah, definitely, and especially how Daniel Bryan feels up for it and everything. I'm not too sure on the status. Having him return would be pretty damn cool. I would like to see that. But as of right now, I do see Sting and The Undertaker and Kane a part of the team if they do it that way. But Daniel Bryan would be interesting.
Yeah. I wanted to ask David what his thoughts were about the surprise return of Del Rio as the guy that took the U.S. Open Challenge and subsequently took the U.S. title from Cena because Cena is on his time away from the company right now. What did you think of that?
I did see that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Having him as a heel, I think that works better for him. It's still a little weird seeing him with Seth Colton, trying to get used to it. I kind of get the gist of it on why they did that, especially with him having problems backstage and everything. So I kind of get why they kind of did that. But hopefully Raquel Rodriguez will return and they can be together and everything like that, since I felt like they meshed well, or just have him out on his own. So I think it's cool that he's back then.
Right. I mean, there were rumors that WWE wanted him back, but he wasn't among the names that I was throwing out there as the next U.S. champion. So it was a real surprise to me.
We were talking about that, I think, at one point. We didn't think he would even be remotely even in the picture, but you and I, Raz, were talking about that, how we thought, or talking about how WWE wants him, but we don't see him anywhere in the near future coming back. But then it was a surprise turn, and he did end up coming back.
And the whole Zeb Culture thing, like David said, adds a whole other element to it that I never saw coming. But I think it has a lot to do with what David said about maybe the backstage issues, maybe trying to cool off the locker room by bringing him back. But also, I think it has a lot to do with, like it or not, he's a great wrestler, but promos are never his strong suit.
And because English is not his first language.
Yeah, so it just makes sense for him to have a mouthpiece. And there's arguably no better mouthpiece unless you can get Paul Heyman. There's no better mouthpiece in WWE right now.
He could be a Paul Heyman guy.
Yeah.
But to be fair, like everybody who does kind of have a speaker are kind of horrible on the mic. Well, to be fair to Del Rio, like his English is not his first language, but when you talked about Paul Heyman's mic skills, Brock Lesnar sounds like a dying whale when he speaks on the microphone. Just gonna point that out.
I don't know if I go that far, but it was.
He is an average at best.
It was uncomfortable at certain points to watch the Stone Cold podcast. Like that's the most I'd ever heard Lesnar talk, and he seemed a little bit more relaxed, but it also kind of seemed like Austin was almost like wringing his neck metaphorically, trying to get stuff out of him. Like he just wasn't used to talking like that. It was very strange.
I think a podcast is much different than going on in a ring and then speaking in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
But still, like, you can just tell when somebody's on a show. Like, for instance, like Jericho, he was on The Talking Dead. He was so good talking, and he's so good on the mic. And then when, like, people like Del Rio or Brock Lesnar speak, like, it's but especially Lesnar, he sounds like a whale when he talks. But go ahead, David.
Yeah, like, to me, I mean, he's average at best when he talks, but I think having him with Paul Heyman is a much more better fit, and having Paul Heyman do all the talking for him is really cool.
Yeah, I would like to see another Paul Heyman guy happen, but I understand why they won't do it because it takes away from the mystique of Brock Lesnar. Like when Brock Lesnar's around, it's also the only time Paul Heyman's around. Like they're a package deal.
Right,
So
yeah,
kind of
they kind of
Mm.
belong together, and Lesnar does not need to talk. Like my timeline when one time when he grabbed the mic, oh my God, my timeline was like, dear God, please don't let him talk. And even Paul Heyman was like this. And there's a meme of Paul Heyman goes, oh God, he's gonna speak.
I saw that. I remember that.
yeah. All right. Well, I don't really know what else I personally for me that I can add this week because like we've said, everything is just still up in the air now. I mean, it's complete chaos.
I
What's
think
going
we'll be able to
on?
talk about more
Basically.
next week. But go ahead, David, because we kind of interrupted you.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, that's mainly been the major news that I've seen too as of right now. So, like I said before, hopefully we get some more information once Raw happens and everything. I'm sure the authority probably make an announcement on Raw. I can see that happening this week too.
We
Yeah.
can build more information off of Raw this week than we
Yeah.
can now.
Right. I mean, we'll have more to say the next time we do a show. I mean, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I'm not sure if Jamie will have someone fill in for me or if I'll be able to do it or not. But there's a possibility that you may not see the show next
Or
week.
it'll just be on a Sunday. Something will be up, at least.
Yeah. Well, the reason that it might get moved or maybe like late or whatever is because my birthday is Friday,
Oh,
and
nice.
people won't be able to celebrate much on Friday because people are working. So I'll be busy Saturday probably doing stuff with the family and friends.
That's cool. Happy early birthday.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that, man.
So, David, do you
Um,
want to ask us anything before we end the show?
yeah. Well, turn the tables on you. I mean, because you haven't talked to us in a while. Like,
Right.
yeah.
Well,
Uh-oh.
other than that, you want thoughts on the current product as of right now?
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, you're
What are your thoughts
the
on the current product?
Oh, the thoughts on the current product. Do you want to go first, Raz, or me?
Well, I have to echo what you said. It just all depends on who's getting written and how they're being pushed because some guys are just doing really well and really strong, and other guys are just like in the middle. And you want to wring creative's neck, like Dolph Ziggler. Is he ever gonna get a major push again? Like
I
it
hope he does.
really bothers me to see what's happened to Dolph Ziggler. But at the same time, I like the idea of him and Tyler Breeze together. I think he's the right guy to help Tyler right now, so that Tyler doesn't get lost in the shuffle. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the current product. Honestly, I feel
I
sometimes.
feel half and half.
Yeah, honestly, sometimes I feel like there's too much wrestling. Like Jamie and I have said this ad nauseum, and every one of these shows, and we talk about it all the time, almost every day on Skype. Raw is just too long. It should not be a 3-hour show. Pay-per-views is fine for 3 and occasionally 4 hours for some Slam and WrestleMania, but to have 3 hours every week, it's just trying to do too much, and you just get so tired. I can't remember the last time that I made it through a Raw.
I fell asleep, I think.
Yeah, all the
It
way
was
live.
a week or two ago. It was like, it's not because I thought it was boring. I just couldn't sit through anymore because I was dead by like 11 o'clock.
Right. I
It's
mean,
like
if it
a
wasn't
pay-per-view
for
on its own too, basically, in a way.
Yeah,
yeah,
good point.
I mean, if it wasn't for DVR, I would not have seen a full Raw in almost a year. It feels like. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things where I just feel like Raw is too long. So that's like the
Yeah.
one main change I would make.
I feel half and half about the product. Because there's some moments where they do extremely well, but then in other moments, like Raz was saying, we just want to like strangle everybody in the creative team. But because there's some things that they do amazing and they book amazing, but it depends each week on how everything is booked. But would you like to? Anybody else like to add anything?
David can answer his own question, I
Yeah.
guess, if he wants, but there's not much else I can say. I mean, that's just.
Oh yeah, and about the 3 hours. I know we always talk about that, but on some occasion 3 hours is fine. Like maybe after a big pay-per-view, there's always like that follow-up. Or on special Raws or something is fine for 3 hours. But every week it just feels like a chore sometimes watching Raw. Like sometimes I just tune
Exactly.
on
It really
because it's
does.
habit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, Raw is a habit more than something you look forward to
Don't
sometimes.
get me wrong, I love WWE, but like sometimes I just don't want to sit through three
Oh,
hours.
don't, yeah, absolutely. Don't get us wrong. We're not going to stop being wrestling fans. It's in our blood. We wouldn't sit here and do this show and all of our videos if we didn't love
Right.
wrestling. But it's just the product's kind of like, I
It's
feel like
just
it's,
very average right now.
yeah,
It's not the best, but it could be better.
yeah. And that's not even counting Ring of Honor and
Mm.
TNA because we really don't have the ability to get into those brands on this show because Jamie doesn't have the ability where she
Yeah.
lives to be able to watch them on TV.
Yeah,
So,
for me, I mean, I've been getting more into, in some ways, SmackDown a lot more better since it flows more, and it's 2 hours, so it's a lot easier to sit through, and NXT, and in ways, Ring of Honor, haven't really been that much high in TNA lately. To me, it just feels like highlights, really, for this year so far.
right,
Yeah,
right.
that is
And
also another good point.
a lot of what you've seen on it, TNA gives away the fact that it's tape because a
Yeah,
lot of the guys that are on Impact right now are either in Ring of Honor on more current TV or in NXT on more current TV. So it's
There
just
is a SmackDown that Undertaker's supposed to be on because they'll be in the UK, but I think he's wrestling in a dark match. But if he's not, I'm going to tune into that SmackDown anyway. But I do like how SmackDown's 2 hours because there's one time I did watch it and I didn't expect it to be over that fast. It was already like 10 o'clock, and I was like, wait, we still don't have an hour to go. And I was like, wait, it's not Raw.
mhm,
Raw's 3 hours. So I do agree with you on that. How SmackDown does flow better because it's not like
it
3 hours
does it
long.
does feel better. That's why Raw needs to go back to 2 hours, and that's why he did 2 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, 1 hour of NXT. You know, your weekly programming is really strong if you go in
mhm.
that direction, and I'm hoping that's the direction they might go in when SmackDown comes to USA
Yeah,
officially very soon because Jerry King Lawler was talking about the possibility of SmackDown going 100% live all the time,
It
which
should.
is which is what it needs because you really don't have to watch SmackDown now because if you miss it, you can read results of what happened. Where
exactly.
and that's what hurts SmackDown
Yeah,
really is the ability
and
to
that we had the spoilers and everything. And it'll
yeah
actually give you more reason to check out SmackDown to see what's going on. And actually might be that more interesting. Hopefully other things will go into that'll be just for SmackDown only like it used to be. That's another thing I miss about SmackDown because there were only like certain things that were just for that show and then it actually keep you interested.
right. I mean, but if they screw this up and they don't do SmackDown,
It all depends
I
how they book everything.
Exactly,
Yeah,
yeah.
if it wasn't for NXT being so important to WWE Network, I mean, NXT is what sustains WWE Network when it's not a pay-per-view weekend, let's be honest.
Mhm.
So if it wasn't for that, I would not put it past WWE to make NXT the second show and put it on, like, USA because
It
it
is
would,
that good.
it's that good of a
Yeah.
show, and if they really want people to care about a secondary show, I mean,
WWE, or at least I mean NXT, is mainly like the wrestling and the good storylines, and then Raw is just like a drama show. You know what I mean? It's not really the wrestling. It's more of just like the storylines and everything. But I could almost see if they book it right, SmackDown and NXT being the better shows than Raw, even though Raw is supposed to be the A brand.
Right.
If they book it right, it depends how they book
Well,
it.
but I don't know.
Yeah.
I agree with what David was saying about, separating Raw and SmackDown, making SmackDown have its own unique storylines, but I don't want to see a brand split again. Because I think,
No, it doesn't have to be like that, though.
because I think having two world champions just devalues the luster of being world champion, in my opinion.
I agree
That
with
makes
what
sense.
David's saying, but not like a brand split. But no, to do things to make SmackDown interesting, to have little things on SmackDown that we won't see on Raw, instead of having SmackDown be the replay for Raw, have
Right.
other interesting
Yeah,
things
I mean
on SmackDown.
they literally do that because they'll have a match on SmackDown and then they'll have the same match on Raw and say it was a rematch from SmackDown. Likelihood is nobody saw the first match that was on SmackDown. So they literally do that now. So I don't know, man and girl. I mean, I just don't know. I don't know what the answer is right now.
There's a lot of ifs in wrestling right now because of all the
There is.
injuries. There's literally like 7 wrestlers out right now. So,
Yeah, and that's a lot for WWE and their lack of ability with so many guys on the cusp, but not quite there yet in terms of future stars. I mean, having 7 guys on IR is a lot.
and that's why they keep calling Brock Lesnar up or Undertaker up. Like they're not going to be here for that much longer, especially Undertaker. But that's a whole nother
Yeah.
video.
That's
So
why we gotta
before
get
we
the
end
other
it, go ahead.
stars going.
Go ahead. Sorry, David.
Yeah, what I was saying, we gotta get like the other stars going in, like the younger guys, and hopefully bring them up and have more stuff going for them too. Have things going in an interesting note for them. Have some cool storylines and all that.
Yeah.
All right. So before I end it, does anyone want to add anything else, or are we all good?
No, I think I'm good.
By the way, I'm sorry if the lighting
Yeah, I'm
or it
good
got
too.
really dark in here. I'm filming with only the sunlight outside. But what would you like to end with, David?
Other than that, I guess I'll just promote myself and definitely check me out on Twitter at David Rivera 1989. Of course, my YouTube channel, which is Fort Minor Project.
All right. So anyone else want to promote anything? Or you should
Just
send in your videos for The Undertaker 25 years. I'll put that down below, but go ahead, Raz. Sorry to cut
Yeah, I
you
was
off.
going to say your Undertaker 25-year project. If you're a sports fan in general and not just a wrestling fan, I'm trying. I didn't get a chance to do it this week, but hopefully next week it'll come back. But I actually have a separate channel now called The Reality of Sports, where it's just nothing but sports videos that are going to be on that channel, like my thoughts on the sports world as a whole, because that was always one of my dreams, was to be a sports broadcaster. And when I started YouTube, that was my original vision. And then I did a couple of wrestling videos and a couple of DVD and Blu-ray updates, and those are what caught on. And the sports thing didn't happen, so I thought, well, I'll just make the sports thing a side project now, and if people like it, they can come over to that channel. But if you just type in The Reality of Sports, you'll know it's me by seeing my face, if you're interested in that. So I've got
Nice.
that going on, and I've got, like catch up on my main channel. I've just been really busy with the family food truck as of late, and also I picked up NHL 16 this week. So I've just been kind of busy playing that, and hopefully after my birthday I'll be able to play WWE 2K16. So I've just been kind of busy with the PS4 when I'm not working or on Skype.
Okay, so sorry to cut you off, but all our links are in the description, and we will see you next week. Or if
I was
you want, David,
done
if you want to be on the show again next week, or
Yeah,
if you
I'll
want to add
definitely let you
anything.
know. But yeah, thanks for having me. It's been really fun doing this, and hopefully I'll be on for next week and other shows too.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, good to see you, man. And don't worry about cutting me off, Jamie. I was done anyway. So,
All right. I'm going to end it. Bye.
bye.